Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens. I Have Thoughts. Today's episode of I Have Thoughts is called Rocky and Me. My name is Glenn Gers. I come to you every Tuesday and Thursday live at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, if I can make it, to talk about writing, answer some questions, and at the same time try to explore some issues in different types of formats, vehicles. This is the I Have Thoughts format. I also do an Ask Me Anything, but the main thing that you can get from this channel is here on the channel page. Go to my channel page and go to the first three playlists on the channel. The top three, as you go down the page, are Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and The Process, Being a Writer. These three playlists are where I have reduced down the things I think are most useful for writers into short video lessons. Each one is about 10 minutes long. The topic is not only the title, but also the thumbnail. These great big colorful words tell you genre, flashbacks, dramatic action, dialogue, whatever it is that I think I have something to tell you that I learned in my 25-year career writing for TV and movies. On my way out of the business, I am trying to leave these tips, techniques, and skills for you to use if they are useful to you. Only if, because everyone is different. Every writer has different needs, different ways of working, different things they're trying to do. And so all I can do is say, hey, this is a bunch of things I discovered that helped me when I was trying to figure this stuff out. There were no books about it at the time, and there certainly were no YouTube channels. And so I am trying to just give you those things to try out. But your job is to try things, figure out which ones help you, throw away the ones that don't help you, and keep doing your stuff, because that is what it is all about. You doing your stuff. Hi, Donna. Hi, Morbo. Hi, Michael. Hi, Nathan. I am glad that the family is there. Hi, Marital Toser and Thumper and Quan. Hello, Quan. I've never met you before. And Jenny. Hello, Jenny. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Let us get to today's topic. There will be plenty of room for asking me anything or talking about what you want. But right now, let's talk about Rocky and me, because I know that you are all saying, okay, what's he going to talk about this? Hi, Hunter. Congratulations. Excellent. Third screenplay is a good thing to be doing. The more you can do, the better. If you write a bunch of stuff, you are more likely to learn. You are going to get better if you keep writing. Just write one thing over and over doesn't help you as much as writing three things like Hunter or more. Okay, let's talk about Rocky. Oh wait, I knew this was going to happen. My camera battery died because I was shooting a video. So let me light myself up here, and let me see if I can get this to work. Hi, this is live, Maisie. This is live. It is unfortunately live with a poor camera because I killed my camera battery yesterday filming a new video, which I am editing, and I forgot to recharge the battery. So unfortunately, you may have some crappy images of me. Let me see if I can get this to work. Anyway, hi, Maisie. Yes, indeed. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Kelly. Yes, the camera switched. It switched. It will probably switch again. Doing the best I can. The battery's going to die. Okay, let's try and talk about Rocky. Because here's the deal. A famous thing happened in the 1970s. The movie Rocky, which unexpectedly became an enormous hit. There were not a lot of popular boxing movies at the time, and the boxing genre had faded away in the 1930s and 40s. And what happened was Sylvester Stallone wrote the script of Rocky. He had been in a couple of movies at that point. He was not unknown. He was not unrepresented, but he was not getting the breaks and he thought of himself As a filmmaker, he ended up directing and writing a lot of movies. But at the time, he wrote Rocky. He knew what it was about. It's actually a really excellent script. So the famous legend is he wrote this script. People were interested. Producers and companies were interested. And they said, yes, we want this script. And Stallone said, you can't have it unless I play Rocky, the star part. And famously, they said, all right. So hold on, let me just check some of these. Grease, hi, die. Oh, that's very weird. Okay, sorry about that. Did I see Rocky in theaters when I came out? Yes, I am old. I was in high school at the time. Hi, Gene. Anyway, yes, so famously, among the legends of Rocky are that Sylvester Stallone said, I have a script, it's of value, I will use that to leverage me becoming a movie star. I know it's a great part, I wrote it for myself. So this became a famous Hollywood story. Sylvester Stallone wouldn't give away his script unless he could star in it. Now, this is a great story about the power of good scripts, about the cleverness and determination of an artist. People talk about this still in the business all the time. That's how you do this thing. I wrote a script around the same time. I finished it in about 1982, a couple of years later. And I eventually, it took 10 years, but I did eventually get it optioned by a studio. It gave me a bundle of money that I could use to stop finally working as an office temp. And this script got picked up, possibly to get made as a movie star movie. It then became an utter disaster. It was not made. They held on to it for 3 years for the option while they tried to get it going. And eventually it came back to me, because that's what an option is. They hold on to it for a set amount of time. And if they can't make the movie, they let it go back to you. So at that point, I had now made a bunch of money from it, and I had gotten a bunch of other jobs. So I had income. So I didn't need to sell this script. So I said, I love this script. I believe this script is special. I know it, and it was. It's a really good script. And I said, I am not going to let anyone make it if they try to change it in ways that will hurt it. It was a tricky script. It was complicated and clever in a way. It was unusual. And so everyone loved it, but everyone wanted to take away what was unusual, which I knew meant it would stop being lovable. So I started to say, listen, I will play the game for all of my jobs here, but on this one script, I will not make changes unless I think they're right. Usually a screenwriter has to make whatever changes anyone tells him to, because you are an employee. So, hey Arfang, haven't seen you in a while. And Isabel, hello. So here's what happened. So this is many years ago. And over the course of time, this script, because it really is good, it's special, it's unique because it mixes romantic comedy and action thriller in a weird way. And everyone kept on saying, I really like this is a romantic comedy. Let's get rid of that action thriller stuff. And the action thriller people said, oh, this is a great action thriller. The romantic comedy stuff is not fitting in. And I knew that the only thing that made this magical was that it kept on blurring those boundaries and opening up your eyes to different possibilities. So I refused to change it. If somebody gave me a note that was a good idea, I would do that for free. No money changes hands. I retained ownership of it. But if they gave me an idea, I was like, great, I did a rewrite. I rewrote this for decades. And also at a certain point, I said, I want to direct it. So I am being Sylvester Stallone. I am following the legend of Hollywood success. As a result of my being absolutely strict on, I will not change the script unless it's what I believe is right, and I need to direct it. Auteur beliefs. The film never got made. And a lot of people with a lot of power wanted to make it. Stars wanted to star in it, but not with me directing and not with me refusing to make the changes that I didn't like. So as a result, this script was around and wanted for 30 years, never got made. So the point about Rocky and me is that we're not all Rocky, that Rocky isn't going to happen every time. And it's very, very important that you understand this mythology that comes out where they say, so-and-so did this, and therefore everyone says, oh, therefore I should do this. Not necessarily the right plan, okay? The first lesson I want you to take from this story about me and Rocky is, in the business, it is taken for granted that everything is negotiable. Everything. No, the things that you think they couldn't possibly change that, and then they do. And don't kid yourself. No matter how much you say, I'm Sylvester Stallone, I'm not going to sell this script unless it's made this way, they just assume that sooner or later you'll say, oh no, I respect that, you're going to write me a check. Yeah, do whatever you want. No one believed me when I said I was not going to change things if I didn't like them. And so they would get into these long, protracted note sessions and negotiations, and I would eventually say, nah, I'm not changing that. That's a mistake. And they would get really mad at me, okay? And I got a reputation for being very difficult because I would say, I will not change this. And I would say, don't start working with me on this if you are not okay with me being the deciding, the final cut on this script. No matter how much I said that, I was so blunt, I was so clear that I said, I'm okay if you don't buy this script, but don't be surprised if I refuse to make a change if I believe it's not right. They just couldn't believe it. They could not hear this because in the business, everything is negotiable. Everything. Pretty Woman, okay? Pretty Woman was originally a very dark, different script than the one that they made about the reality of a street hooker becoming the girlfriend of this guy for 3 days. They eventually just completely changed it. Every word rewritten. And that was a huge hit, and it was good for that guy in many ways, but if he wanted to Rocky that script, it would never have gotten made. So the first little lesson here is recognize that no matter how much people say, oh, we admire someone for sticking to their guns, they don't. They expect you to give in. Okay, first lesson. All right. Let me just quickly check some of these messages. Is it common for screenplays to be optioned for new writers? Yes. Option is much more common than sale because, there we go again, because a sale is very expensive. And why would they buy if they can rent? Optioning is essentially renting the script for a couple of years, 18 months to 3 years. And so basically they're saying, we're going to put a hold on this. So you can't give it to anyone else, but we may not keep it. That's what optioning is. Hi, Umbra Man. Hello, Delise. You haven't seen me in a while because I was in LA. Welcome. While I'm in LA working, the time is not available to watch your videos, but that is ironic, but you know what? That's the whole magic of this internet thing. Okay. Did you lose any friendships or work relationships over this reputation? Yes. A lot. I lost a manager over it when it really came down to it. They could not. No one believed me. I would say right to their face, seriously, don't get started if that's not okay with you. And they all just... Yes, word got around about my stubborn personality. And the weird thing is, and it wasn't just this project, I was very, very open. I'm going to try the camera again. No, it's not working. There we go. My understanding of my career was I understood that being a screenwriter for hire meant you do what you're told. And as I learned that, I started to say, okay, here's the deal. I will be a screenwriter for hire, but now and then on an original project that I wrote and that I own, I am going to say this one is the auteur. This one is the art project. This one is the Stallone, Rocky, I'm not changing this. And I only did like one at a time. I would never like have a lot of them, but I would say, I'll do whatever we need except this project. This one project, understand, this is my passion project. Didn't matter. No matter how much I told people, don't start if they're not okay with that. I became very difficult. And sometimes people would make an agreement. They'd say, yes, we will not interfere with this artistic thing. And then they would, and then I would say, sorry. And then I was difficult. Why are things in the film business negotiable? Because everyone wants a hit, and therefore they will trade whatever they're doing for what someone else with more power says is what they want. You're always trying to put together a deal in the business. You are not just trying to make a piece of art that you've discovered. You are trying to put together the star and the director and the studio and the distribution plan and the budget. And all of those things come with requirements. This star means you can't have that scene. This director means you have to shoot in this country. Whatever it is, there's lots of things. Everyone has demands. And if you want to get it made, you give in to the demand of the person who has the most power. That person is never the screenwriter, okay? Should never. So there you go. I loved Pretty Woman. I thought they did the right thing with Pretty Woman. I think Pretty Woman was a great, great romantic comedy. However, $3,000, the original script, is also a really interesting idea. Are most of the movies we watch not the original idea that the screenwriter had in mind? Yes. Most of the things you watch have been rewritten by different people or had different companies or entities or individuals take an idea, a script, and then rework it to what they think is good, depending on who has the power. The power comes from having a lot of money or having had a hit. If you've had a hit, people think you know something, which truthfully you probably don't. You just got lucky. But if someone has had a hit, they get believed more than other people. Hello, Paolo. And respect to Egypt. Thank you, Tut. Is there any way you could do a crowdfunding thing to get this made? This particular script? No. This one's done. It's old. Okay, this is great. Have you ever involved in a physical fight because of these arguments? No. I am not that. I have a bad reputation, but not that bad. There are some. I know of some screenwriters who have gotten into physical arguments. It's not going to help anything. Are there books, movies that depict the industry in a realistic way? That's an interesting question. Let me think about it. Not fictional ones. There are some nonfiction ones that are quite realistic. They're quite good, like studies of the movie business. Let me think about which ones. I had a friend who was able to direct a test scene from a script, but they had no intention of direct. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, and you never know. For instance, if a star becomes attached who's powerful enough, or a financier who is okay with you directing, then all of a sudden it's okay that you're directing. Furthermore, don't kid yourself. You may not be good enough at directing. Like, it may not work out. Just because you think that you got it doesn't mean you do. Hello, Kirby. And by the way, when I say got it, I don't mean have the quality. I mean just like you think you've got this down, you know what you're doing. That does not mean it will succeed. There. Anyway, lesson number 2 about me and Rocky, which is you are not Rocky. I am not Rocky. No one is anybody else. You are you. And that is the most important thing. When you hear a story about someone in the art field and how they succeeded, that will not necessarily translate to you. Okay, that's just not how it works. If you just do the thing that the other artist did, you are not in the same conditions that they are. Sylvester Stallone was working this was in like 1974 or 5 when that deal was made. 1974 or 5 was a weird time of the business when a lot of people were getting breaks that they never would have given breaks to at that time. And it happened to go to a company that was okay with various things. And Sylvester Stallone he was right for the role. It wasn't like he was saying, I want you to do something that's inherently bad for the project. He was right about it. So it wasn't that big a stretch. But the point is that that's a big stretch from me saying, I want to direct a movie that I've never directed a movie before, because they know that the odds of me being a good director are very slim, just because the odds of anybody being a good director is very slim, even if you can prove it in many ways. And the truth is, much of the time that I was insisting I direct that movie, I wouldn't have done a good job. I grew into it. I learned by practicing. However, the truth is, it would have been a huge gamble for anyone to take me up on that. Collaborate with someone who shares your vision and has the experience. Yes, if you can do that, that is absolutely what you should do. Joe Estrasse had a way of convincing producers. Yeah. Joe Estrasse is not the best example of anything. I'm curious about the story. I'll tell you about that. That's fine. Let me just finish up with these lessons here. Okay, these stories like, oh, Sylvester Stallone did this thing. These are stories partly that are told by the entertainment media to fans. In other words, that was a cool part of selling the movie Rocky, was it's a story about an underdog fighter and it's this underdog actor. So that was part of the publicity for Rocky at the time, was the reason that story was released. It's not like anyone else, except for the people involved in making it, no one knew that. This was not artistic advice. It was publicity for this particular fairy tale of a movie. The other thing is that business people are always looking for the way to beat the system. They are looking for, if so-and-so did this thing and they were successful, then if I do this thing, I will be successful. That isn't actually how creative work works, but you think it is. We all aspiring artists tell ourselves, okay, if James Joyce wrote this way, and I write that way, I'll be James Joyce. It's not true. Likewise, if a famous athlete eats spinach or takes a cold shower right before a race, you'll think, oh, that's a good thing to do. And it may be, but it may not be. You have to figure out what's right for you in your circumstances. Your body may be different, and cold showers or spinach may have a different effect. In my case, being really, really outrageously stubborn about my artistic vision did not particularly endear me to anyone. I was not Sylvester Stallone. So now, do I regret this? This is an interesting part of it. No, I don't. I'm okay with it. I made that choice knowing it wasn't like my whole career. It was just a part of it, the part that I was pushing towards being a director and being a person with a vision. But as a working artist, I was always getting work. That was fine. The third lesson that I really, really think is important is how much it's not about you. When we hear these stories, that is the story of Sylvester Stallone. However, when people were doing it, it was the story of getting this movie made, and everyone was figuring out what they could and couldn't do. All of us artists, we tend to think we are the most valuable part of the equation. We think, oh, if they would only let me do what I see in my head, if they would only let me do my way, everything would be forgiven. I would be such a big hit that they would forgive me. They would back me. They would see that I was right. Truthfully, most of the time that is not so. Even if you were to do something and it was good, like even if you were right that the thing you were doing was going to be good according to your values of good and people were going to like it, that doesn't necessarily mean it would be the hit. It could have been the other ways, and therefore it may not be what the company wanted. If they have a choice between something that's really great artistically and something that's really commercially successful, they are going to prefer the commercially successful thing. So, it's not about you. It's about whether or not the other person is getting what they are looking for. Okay? And this is really, really hard for us to understand as artists. Much later in my career, I finally did get to direct a movie, a little one, through Blumhouse, who I was difficult with. They were difficult with me too. We were all difficult together. But the movie came out. I was very proud of it. And as a result, I was up for a couple of directing jobs for other horror movies. When the company came, they had a script that they liked, and they had the money to make that. And they were looking for a director. And they came to me, among other people, of course, and they said, hey, here's this script. Would you be interested in directing it? Tell us what you would do with it. And I read them, and I thought the scripts were awful. Just awful. Interesting ideas, some cool bits, but just badly. I'm a good writer. So as a director, I'm like, don't you want a good writer to go through this and fix the bad writing so that I can be a good director? So as a result, I went into these directing meetings and I said, I would love to direct this. Let me rewrite it. I will rewrite it. I will do it for as low a price as we can legally afford, get away with the union. But I'm going to completely rewrite these because these scripts are bad. They were bad. They were really bad. And I knew how to make them better. It meant massively rewriting them. And they all said, no, thank you. We'll find a different director. And in one case they did. In the other case, the movie never got made. But the main thing about it was like a year or two later that I realized if I wanted to be a director, I had to just say, yes, I will direct this movie. This is how I will direct it. May I tinker a bit with the dialogue? Sure. But if they bring me a script, which they thought was good, right? They were looking for directors. They thought the script was close to being ready to go. I was thinking, but look at how much more I can give you. Cheap. It's not about the money. It's about the art. And I was right about that. However, it didn't matter because that's not what they were looking for. And all I kept thinking is, well, wouldn't they like me even better? And it was insanely stupid of me to think it was all about me and what I could bring to the project. Because while they do want you to bring what you could bring to the project, they don't want you to bring to the project to the point that you take the project away from them and make it yours. That's not the point. Okay, so let me just quickly catch up on all these. Did it affect the budget of Rocky? No, the Rocky was supposed to be low budget from the beginning. It was relative for a Hollywood movie. It was relatively low budget, which was part of the style of it. It's brilliantly made. Thank you. My wife picked out this shirt. Hello, Matt Newby. Nice to see you. I love the Rocky movies. If I'm mistaken, yes, it won Best Picture. Rocky is the ultimate fairy tale of Hollywood because no budget, low budget, unknown star. Barely known. Is a character actor. He had done one other lead part, I believe. And not only did it make a fortune, it made so much money at that time, and it won Best Picture. So not only was it a commercial success, it was an artistic success. That is really, really, really unique. Does not happen a lot. And as a result, everyone was like, oh, well, that's now the pattern we should follow. But the reason that Rocky was the big hit it was because it was at the time when people were getting very, very tired of art films. There had been an 8 to 10 year period when films were very, very grim, very, very confusing and artsy, and often really hard to follow and unlikable. And the popular entertaining movie was very close to dead. And so therefore, a movie that comes along that's got an underdog hero and it's all about the underdog finding a way to accomplish his dream and it was really, really enjoyable. Damn, that Jaws and Star Wars changed the business. So yeah, if they throw money at you, are you willing to let it go? That was the point. That was the exact point, and this is the point that Hollywood used to. No longer works quite this way, but originally the idea was, if you get paid enough, you should give up on your artistic beliefs. That's what the money's for. As the famous scene from Mad Men. It's a great scene in Mad Men where Dawn and Elizabeth Moss, I can't remember her character's name, but she's saying, it's not fair. You took my work. I did great work. It went to you. You took it and you didn't tell anyone that I did it. And he said, that's what the money's for. Right. So the answer was, yes, I will give up on things for money, but now and then I will choose one not to. I thought that would be respected. Didn't work out that way. Yeah, thank you. Anyway, Living in Oblivion is an interesting movie about I wouldn't say it's particularly accurate. I mean, even then when it came out, it wasn't really that accurate to what it's like to work in the film business. It's a fun movie. Yes, I will talk about that at some time. Yeah, it's okay. Why does Rejection hurt so much? And would you like to direct another feature film again? Yes, I would, but I'm not going to get the opportunity to because it's late in my career, and the business is not eager to take unknown old directors. Why does Rejection hurt so much? Two things. One, when you create, it's very personal to you. So therefore, when someone criticizes the object you created, you somehow feel like they're criticizing you. They're not necessarily. They're criticizing the object that you have created, but it feels, because you felt so much when you created it, that feeling is out there with it, and that feeling is being criticized, and that hurts. Also, just it hurts to know, criticism is never fun. Just, now and then it'll be like, oh yeah, that's right, that's helpful. But most of the time it's just like, oh, you think differently than me, and ouch. What was the movie that got made that you were up for directing but wanted to? I will not say that, because I just said it was a terrible script, and it would be nasty for me to say that. So I'm not going to. Why do new writers like myself have a better chance of getting their movie made with an indie studio instead of? Because of money. The big studios are gambling $200 million and up on their movies. Even a low budget Hollywood movie now is like, I don't know, $40-50 million. It's just a lot of money, and therefore it is, you want someone who has proved that they could do this particular job. Therefore, if somebody's saying, well, we're gambling, 100,000, and therefore, we could lose that and not, our company is capitalized to be able to lose that. So that is why artsy and unknown people tend to do better with low budget and indie. Many writers become prolific directors. Not as many as you would think. That's another thing about the business that the media lionizes directors. So when there's a writer-director, they're like, oh yeah, they're a writer too. And very, very rarely actually do writers become directors. It's a very different job, and it's very hard. Okay, well, the last lesson that I really want to get to on this story of me and Rocky, because as I'm saying, I do not regret it. I regret some things. I regret the parts of what I did that I didn't understand. Does that make sense? In other words, if I willingly made a choice and I said, I am going to hold on to this script and fight for this script, even if, and I was pretty nice about it most of the time. I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make that change. And I don't mind that script didn't get made. I do mind that I got a reputation for being difficult because I did not intend that. I didn't recognize I was doing that. I do mind that I didn't get those directing jobs because I honestly thought I was doing the best thing to get them. And if I had thought about it, if I had known then what I know now about this process, I would have said to myself, if you want the directing job, shut up and do the directing job. Most directors, they say, I need to have some changes made in the script, but not I'm going to rewrite it from scratch, which is what I was saying because I'm a good writer and I knew how to rewrite it from scratch. Most directors would say, we're going to change a little dialogue, and then they would rewrite it from scratch, but they wouldn't tell anyone up front. So that I regret. But the main thing is, if you are going to do these things, recognize that what you are doing is a choice. Make your choice recognizing the cost. In other words, I was willing to have this movie never get made rather than have it get made badly. I'm okay with that. I recently met a producer who fought for it for 10 years trying to get it made. He pushed so hard. He got so many steps along the path, but he couldn't get it all the way because it's a really hard thing to do. And honestly, and he said, do you regret that we didn't, that you held out and wouldn't do it, what they asked? And I don't regret that at all. I do regret where I didn't make the choice. Oh, there we go again. Sorry, folks. Anyway, there you go. The important thing is to recognize that you are making choices and that there is a cost, a potential downside to anything you do. The potential downside of selling the script and saying, yes, I'll make changes even though I know they're going to make the movie worse, is you're going to have a movie out there with your name on it that's worse. You know what? Most people don't care because the fact that it's out there is more important than whether it's good or bad, at least in the business. Okay, let me get my light up here a little bit. There we go. All right, so those are my thoughts on this. Hang on, let me just see. Okay, what is the best way to handle rejection, and is it a bad idea to ask for advice? It is a bad idea to ask for advice from the person who is rejecting you. Yes, generally, if you are in a position of being rejected, accepted or rejected, that's a certain kind of relationship. And usually, people don't want to get into it. They are emotionally invested in not hurting you, usually, and they don't want to get into it. So I'd say asking advice or getting accepted or rejected, keep those separate. My personal behavioral advice. What is Me and Rocky? Basically, that the story of Sylvester Stallone holding on to the script of Rocky until someone would let him star in it is put forth as an example of how to negotiate the business and become and advance yourself. And my story is, as most of us find, you if you hold out and say, I won't give away this script or I won't change the script unless you do this thing, the script just falls apart. It doesn't get made. All right. So film comes first is the great mantra. It's not about you. Or yes. The problem, well, actually, my point about this is not that the film comes first. It's that different people, they come first to them. And the idea that you are going to solve their problems is not necessarily how they see it. That the thing to recognize is that for other parties involved in a collaboration or a negotiation, you are not the solution. They have their needs, and you need to respect their needs. Okay, that is true. It is very, very hard. It is hard to be difficult. Thank you. It was okay. Like I said, part of it was because I was getting other work. If that was the only script I had written, and if it was the only job I was doing, things would be different. Once again, it's really important that you get the lesson here, which is consciously make these choices for your own good. For me, it was okay. It was safe to make that choice. Down the line, honestly, I wish I had learned that there was a non-difficult way to be difficult, because I have lately respected that. Arguing less if you are going to say no, not trying to convince other people that you are right in a disagreement. And accepting that for much of the work of Hollywood, the work of film, you are not in control, that you need to do some things that other people ask you to. Yeah, that's me. Make the film, but make changes while in production. To a certain extent, yes, that actually is. There's also a change. I know. I'll have it charged up by next time. I have not, but I would. Also great shirt. Wow, everyone's loving this shirt. Thank you. Like I said, my wife picked this out. She just came home. She was at a store. She said, I saw this jacket. It was a jacket and a shirt. She said, I saw these two things. I thought they'd look good on you. And she was right. Okay. How do you know? This is a great question. How do you know when to hold them and when to fold them? Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's tricky. How do you know when to take a stand? That is a great question. The answer is you need to sort of figure out the price that you are going to pay if it goes wrong. You have to say, it will be okay for me to not make this movie. Or it will be okay for me to make this movie in a way that most people won't like. The point is, when you hold them, when you take a stand, you want to do that fully accepting the worst case scenario. That is when I would hold them. Like, I would not, bet more than I had. If losing this bet is going to bankrupt you, it's probably not a good bet to make. And artistically, if you really, if you're not, I did this because I had other jobs, so I could afford to let this one not go. I did not, I tried really hard to communicate to people, and it was always weird. Like, I remember with certain people that I would say, like, you need to understand, this is how I work if we're going to work together. And people would say it, but they didn't even know that they believed they could break me. But that's how they think. It's just like, oh, he'll give in sometime. Can you call your producer's bluff? It depends. Once it's exactly the same question. It depends on what the bluff is and whether or not it's really a bluff. It may not be a bluff. They may be telling you the truth. That's the thing. You have to remember, you could do the same thing to them that they're doing to you. You think, oh, I am not doing this. And they're like, well, then we're not making the movie. And that's not a bluff. That's a statement of fact. How many scripts should a person have before trying to pitch? I don't know. More than one, 2 or 3. There's no absolute rule to that. It all that can actually comes with experience. Yes, which is mostly rejection. Yes, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about today. While we are here, I want to talk about this article that was in the New York Times on February 11th. I've put a link to it in the description. So I want to just, I'm going to show you, okay. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen, folks. Okay, this is just a PDF I made of this article by a guy named Stephen Marche. Hold on, let me zip down and show you his new book, On Writing and Failure, or the particular perseverance required to endure the life of a writer, is coming out this month. I'm signing up to get it. It looks great. It seems very interesting. But this article, which, like I said, it's a link to the New York Times website. This article, I believe the New York Times will let you read 1 or 2 articles for free before they make you subscribe. So I hope that you can read it. Anyway, this article is just magically great. This line really, a paradox defines writing. The public sees writers mainly in their victories, but their lives are spent mostly in defeat. This is a fact. This is the truth. This is the truth of almost any artist or creative person, or honestly, person. Most of the time we are not, we have not finished the thing. It has not been a success. Most of the time you are doing the best you can, and that is the condition of being an artist. The condition of being an artist is not being rewarded. It is not being winning and getting to do whatever you want. The condition of being an artist is being an artist even when you are not yet rewarded, even when you do not know if you ever will be rewarded. So this article goes on to talk about the dominant narrative at the moment is that failure leads to success. Damn, that is right. And he says, I hate those stories. I like this guy. Okay, so I actually agree with this. I believe that it is not great to be constantly telling every story as this hardship will lead to a big win. Because the truth is, most hardship doesn't. And we frankly should be telling stories about how to deal with not being the big winner, but being an ordinary person who does things. Because that's what people do. That's what artists do. Most writers are not bestsellers. Most screenwriters do not get their movies made. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be a writer. It doesn't mean that just because you are not the winner does not mean you are not good. Does not mean you're not okay. And really, really, really important. It is not good to only be telling stories where every down leads to a bigger up, because that is not accurate to human life and certainly not to creative life. So, this guy talks about partly he talks about Herman Melville, James Joyce, Jesus, like the various people whose it later were perhaps celebrated, but in their lifetimes were actually struggling. And in fact, where's the thing about Melville? This is just great. Melville. Okay. His final book. Okay, his first book, Typee, was actually a bad book and a bestseller. Okay, Melville starts out writing a crappy bestseller. His last book, which is a masterpiece, he couldn't even manage to self-publish. Okay, after his death, the manuscript sat in a bread box known only to his family and was published 33 years later. Okay? The better he wrote, the more he failed. This is valuable to know. Not because even now, this story kind of lies. Because this story says 33 years after your death, someone will discover that you were a genius. And that lets us off the hook. The truth is, there are some Melvilles out there whose stuff is still in the bread box. And I really, really think it's important that we, his point here is twofold. One is, that's it. This is just great. This is the good stuff. Okay. He's talking about James Baldwin in the Paris Review interviews. He wrote, James Baldwin said, "Write. Find a way to keep alive and write. There is nothing else to say. If you are going to be a writer, there is nothing I can say to stop you. If you are not going to be a writer, nothing I can say will help you." Damn, that's good. That James Baldwin guy is really good. And he says, and this is another great quote from him, discipline, love, luck, but most of all, endurance. Keep doing it. If you are going to be a writer, there is nothing I can say to stop you. That's the truth. That is, in the face of every horror You need to just keep doing it, okay? Yeah. Writers are peculiar beings with their successful failures and their failed successes. So yeah, I just wanted you to know about this article. The link is in the description. This guy named Stephen Marche, who's written a book about writing and failure. This article is just dynamite, and I urge you to read it. Read it fully. I'm just giving you some highlights there. Anyway, so that is the point here. Rocky and Me. The point about Rocky and Me is that I followed the rocky path and got slammed to the ground and never got up. And that's important to remember. I'm not sorry about it. It's cool. I had many other good things happen, and I'm proud of the work I did on that script. But the main thing is to remember that this mythology of success, it can be fairly defeating. And the fact that you don't recognize that your reality is normal, that your failure is the condition of doing this thing, that actually makes it easier and more fun and liberates you to do what the hell you can do. Okay. What is the center of locus when it comes to confidence, creation, and collaboration? How do you keep centered? Big question. Good question. Too big. I'm working actually on a video about confidence. But I would say for me, two main things. The main thing that keeps me focused, centered, making your choices, making you confident, doing things that you like. like that's real. Like if you're not enjoying, if you don't think, gee, this is cool, this is fun, not every minute of the day, but at least when I look back at my pile of unrecognized finished scripts, I still think they're good. I think my work is good. And what's more, a fair number of people, when they see it, they thought it was good. Maybe not good enough in a business sense to get made, but almost everyone would say to me, this is good, but it won't be good business. This is good, but we think a hit is made this other way. That's so if you're getting people saying, this is good, I can't do anything with it, I can't pay you for it, but it's good, that is the reward of an artist. Truly. That, like I said, if you were a painter and you never got into a museum, and you certainly couldn't live off your painting, but if you went to an art fair, a street art fair, and you bought a table and you put up your paintings, and people came by and they said, oh, that's good. And somebody said, I'll pay you $25 for that. That's all I can afford, but I would love to have that painting. Or even just if somebody says, ooh, that's good. That's what keeps you going. That's what makes it worthwhile. And the other thing is to care more about the work than anything else. To care more about I want to do this thing. I would like to do it and be rewarded. I would love to do it and be highly paid. But if I'm not being highly paid, I still want to do it. To me, the thing that makes me still want to write this novel that I want to write, that I guarantee you will be insignificant in the history of the culture and will not make me a penny. But the reason I want to write it is because I think it's going to be cool. I think this unique story in itself is interesting. I think it's going to provoke feelings and thoughts in people who do read it. And I want that to exist. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me centered. That's how I make my choices. Say, I want this to exist. That's it. Yes, exact. Yay. Okay, cool. Final comments here. Spielberg gave credit to writers. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody gives credit to writers. I guarantee you there's a whole pile of writers that Spielberg fired. Confederated Dunces was called bad. Yes, the number of stories, and this is tricky, the number of stories of things that were undiscovered and then became great after it was too late to help anybody are good. But the other number of stories you want is the story of the person who writes, and this is actually what my novel is about, the person who writes this book and somebody finds it in the bread box and they read it and they love it, but then nobody else ever hears of it. Yeah, please like the video. Okay. Success is going from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. Yes. Yeah, Rob, I love that. Yes. Yeah, Nulty says, you do art because you art. Yeah, I like that. That episode in New York Stories is great. It's the best one. You're welcome. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, New York Stories is a movie. It's a collaboration of, I think, 3 or 4 different directors making a story set in New York. It's in the 80s, I think, maybe early 90s. And it was Scorsese, maybe Coppola, or maybe it was Sofia. Anyway, the point is the Scorsese story, written by Richard Price and starring Nick Nolte, based on a Dostoevsky story, is really, I really like it. Okay. Got kicked off the internet. Oh, I'm sorry, Betty. It's nice. I'm glad you're back. Okay, yay. Howdy, Alec. Thank you for saying howdy. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Hey there. I'm a concept artist getting into screenwriting and story. What do you think the best genre outside of action to storyboard? Okay, that's a fascinating question. Yeah, obviously, like fantasy and sci-fi are the best just because they're visually interesting. I actually would say, you know what you should look at? Look at 12 Angry Men, because that's a very storyboarded movie. And what's interesting about it is that's literally a bunch of people standing in a room talking. How does the camera work tell the story and keep the dynamic going when all you've got is a bunch of guys sitting around a table talking for 2 hours? So I would say, if you want to learn about storyboarding, storyboard the stuff that's not visually interesting, because then it's a question of how do you find the drama in the image. That's directing and therefore storyboarding. I am writing my first screenplay for a feature film, and it's the most creative fun. Yay! Good, great, nice, Rob. I am glad that you are enjoying it. Excellent. So yeah. Anyway, I urge you all to read that Stephen Marche essay in the New York Times. Link in the description. I urge you all to choose your battles and feel good about the ones that go down in flames, and feel good about not fighting the battles where you should be respecting the other people involved more than yourself. That's my vision for all of you. Make those choices consciously and in a way that helps you not just advance, but helps you be the artist that you want to be. That's really the main thing. If all you want to do is steamroll everyone else, make that choice and live with the consequences. But I really urge you to recognize that the important thing is everything is a choice that you are making creatively, and that there is a price to that. So be sure that you want to, for your own health and advancement and creative satisfaction, balance your needs and the needs of the people collaborating, or do it yourself. When I did the movie Disfigured, I paid for it out of my money so that I could say, I'm making the choices. I'm willing to pay the price. No stress there. I mean, financial stress, but Anyway, yeah, cool. It was a great question, Alec. Thank you. It's, there you go. Romina, thank you. I am so glad. Yeah, that is my goal, to give you stuff that you can actually use in your work. Okay. Yeah, that's it. See everyone on Tuesday. That is exactly right. Let me check my calendar because last week I screwed up and I actually wasn't here. No, I'm here. I'm good. I will see you on Tuesday with a new episode of something. And in the meanwhile, go write something.